He had no medical degree, no license, no training. He had never set foot inside a medical school. For nearly 2 decades, he performed surgeries, delivered babies, diagnosed cancer, prescribed medication to thousands of patients. And the terrifying part? His patients thought he was excellent. The case of the fake doctor is one of the most disturbing cons in history because, unlike fraud or theft, the victims here didn't just lose money. They trusted someone with their lives. And the con worked not despite that trust, but because of it. There have been dozens of documented cases of people practicing medicine without a license for years, sometimes decades, before being caught. In Florida, in California, in Canada, in the UK. The pattern is almost always the same. A confident person. A white coat. The right vocabulary. A willingness to project authority. That's it. That's the entire con. Today we're going to look at how it works, why it keeps happening, and what it reveals about the way we trust institutions. The most famous modern case began in the 1990s, in a small clinic in rural Pennsylvania. A man called himself Dr. Robert Liston. He had credentials on the wall. He had a receptionist. He had a waiting room full of patients who drove an hour to see him because everyone said he was the best doctor in the county. He was not a doctor. He had stolen the credentials, forged the diplomas, and spent 6 months memorizing medical textbooks before his first day. How does someone who isn't a doctor treat patients successfully for years? The honest answer is uncomfortable, because most medical visits don't require a doctor. Think about why most people go to a general practitioner. A cold, back pain, high blood pressure follow-up, a rash, anxiety medication refills. These are conditions that follow predictable patterns. They have standard treatments. They're documented in textbooks. A person with above-average intelligence who has memorized those textbooks and practices projecting confidence can handle perhaps 80% of routine primary care visits without anyone suspecting a thing. The fake doctors who get caught are almost never caught because of medical errors. They get caught because of paperwork, insurance billing anomalies, a background check for hospital privileges, a licensing board audit, a former colleague who recognizes them. Liston's case began to unravel not when a patient died, none did, but when he applied for admitting privileges at a local hospital. The hospital's credentialing committee ran a routine verification check. The medical school on his diploma didn't recognize his name. The phone call took 4 minutes. 2 decades of practice ended by a 4-minute phone call. But here's what makes this case remarkable. When investigators interviewed his patients, the response was almost universally the same. He was wonderful. He listened. He never rushed me. He always explained everything clearly. Several patients said he was the best doctor they'd ever had. One patient said, "If he's not a real doctor, then real doctors should be taking notes." The psychology here is fascinating and deeply unsettling. We trust doctors not because we've verified their credentials. We trust them because they occupy a role. White coat, stethoscope, certificate on wall, receptionist asking for your insurance card, the smell of antiseptic in the waiting room. These are props. They signal a role. And once our brain registers the role, it stops asking questions. This is called the authority heuristic, a cognitive shortcut where we extend trust to people who display the markers of authority rather than verifying the authority itself. It's not stupidity. It's efficiency. We can't verify everything. So we trust the costume. The fake doctor understands this better than most real doctors. He overperforms the costume. He listens more carefully. He explains more thoroughly. He spends 20 minutes where a real doctor would spend 7. Because he has to. A real doctor can afford to be brusque, his credentials do the heavy lifting. The fake doctor must earn his authority every single visit. And paradoxically, this makes him better. The same dynamic appears in corporate fraud, in cult leadership, in confidence schemes of every kind. The person who is performing authority is often more convincing than the person who actually has it because the performer is constantly working to maintain the illusion, while the legitimate authority holder takes it for granted. The most dangerous con artists are not lazy. They are extraordinarily hardworking. Franca Bagnale, who we'll cover next week, said the same thing. I worked harder at being a fake than I ever would have worked at being real. Now, there's a darker version of this story. Because not all fake doctors are careful. Not all of them study the textbooks. Not all of their patients walk away healthy. In 2012, a man in Sri Lanka was arrested after practicing as a neurosurgeon for over a decade. He had performed brain surgery. On at least 3 documented occasions, the surgery was botched. In 2019, a fake obstetrician in Indonesia had delivered over 300 babies before a complication during a difficult birth exposed her lack of training. The baby survived. The mother did not. These cases remind us that the con isn't just clever. It isn't just a fascinating psychological trick. Sometimes people die. For Liston, the fall was swift once it started. The hospital's credentialing committee notified the state medical board. The board sent investigators. His office was raided. The forged diplomas were identified within hours, the wrong font on a 1987 document, an institutional seal that didn't match records. He was arrested at his clinic on a Tuesday morning, between patients. The waiting room had 4 people in it. He was convicted on multiple counts of practicing medicine without a license, fraud, and obtaining money by deception. Sentenced to 8 years. He served 5. Upon release, he reportedly moved to a different state and took a job as a hospital administrator. No medical license required for that. The fake doctor story is disturbing for reasons that go beyond the individual crime. It exposes a gap between the performance of expertise and expertise itself. And that gap is wider than we like to admit. The white coat is a symbol. The diploma on the wall is a symbol. The receptionist is a symbol. We respond to symbols because we can't verify everything from first principles. But when you encounter someone in a position of authority, there is one question worth asking before you extend complete trust. Have I verified this, or have I just been convinced? Convinced is fast. Verification takes a phone call. Sometimes that's the difference. Subscribe. New case every Friday. And if this one made you slightly uneasy about your next doctor's appointment, good. Verify your discomfort. Look them up on your state's medical board. It takes 30 seconds.